Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Elevate podcast, the show where we explore technology, leadership, innovation, and the journeys behind impactful careers. So, I'm your host Harsha Pitavala, and today I'm excited to welcome Bruno Yoshioka to the podcast. Bruno has built an impressive career moving from music to engineering to coaching and mentorship. And in this episode, we are going to talk and dive deep into Bruno's career journey, lessons learned along the way, leadership insights, navigating growth and change, and advice for professionals looking to elevate their own careers. So, Bruno, thank you very much for joining to the Elevate podcast. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here and super excited for our conversation today, Harsha.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining. Uh, So I want to get a start on your career from music to engineering. So you can answer this question along those lines. So if you look back, what is one or couple of decisions that shaped your career or your life?
It's a great question. So many things happened that really changed the trajectory of where I ended up and how I got to where I am today. I would say the first big decision point in my life that I can go back and remember is when I was applying for college. I was really studying as a musician at that point, as a saxophonist, and I had this dream of going into school, going to music school, eventually becoming a saxophone professor. And when I was applying to schools, my parents encouraged me to also apply to engineering school just to see what would happen. They were looking out for me. Music's a very hard career, so they wanted to see me have other options too. And I ended up applying and I got into both music and engineering school. And when I went to the University of Michigan, I had the opportunity to study both and ended up getting both degrees. And for me, that push to actually apply to engineering school and go and just experiment and see what it was like, that was a really big decision for me that shaped my entire career, to be honest, because I would have never gone into tech had that decision not been made. So I'm super grateful for my parents for pushing me to go and pursue that just to see how it would turn out. And I didn't even know I wanted to do computer science at that point. I just decided I would apply to engineering because engineering seemed interesting to me. I like solving problems, so it was a good fit. And then when I took my first programming class, that was the time when I decided, okay, computer science feels like the right area for me to study because I enjoy this work, I enjoy the classes, I'm having a lot of fun. And it felt a lot more like play rather than work at that time. And that's really what led me to eventually pursuing computer science as a degree. And that pushed me into the career that I'm in today, working in the tech industry. So those are a couple of the big decisions that happened in my life. The decision to apply to engineering school and then to go into engineering. And then through the different courses I took in my first year, eventually deciding that I wanted to study computer science. So two big decisions that led to me eventually getting into the career I'm in now.
Thank you very much, Bruno. So like those two decisions have really shaped your career to become where you are today. So for our audience, Bruno Yoshioka, he is a principal software engineering manager at Microsoft. So as somebody who is coming from a music background, I feel like those people who are in the art fields like music, drama, painting, they have usually some better internal satisfaction from their crafts, I believe, uh, compared to the income they are making. So when you are in big tech, I think your job is more stressful, more pressure, more expectations. So how do you find still that balance, that work-life balance that you could have otherwise got by becoming a musician, but and managing all those commitments and everything in life?
Yeah, I would say the two paths are very different. Being in music is also very difficult. It's stressful in a much different way. I have a lot of friends that are musicians and they are professionals and some of them are struggling constantly. It's just a very difficult field to be in. And engineering has its own struggles for different reasons. Just the pressures and the challenges and the way the businesses are growing, especially now in the era of AI. A lot of change is happening, and there's been constant change, I would say, over the last 20 plus years in the tech industry. So just a lot of things happening all the time. And when I look at what I do to balance things out, I actually don't like the term work life balance that much because it always gives me this visual representation of work and life on a scale where I'm trying to like balance the two. Where I don't really see it as being about balance. I see it more about how do you create the right harmony between the two. Because when I go to work, if I'm giving a lot to my work and then I need more time to recharge and refill at home, then that's the decision I would make at that point in time. And that might be something that happens on a particular day where work is very stressful, there's a lot going on, and then in the evening I just need more time to decompress and to have time for myself. Whereas I might have other days where work is very energizing, and I might go home, have all of my responsibilities at home, but I might log back into work because I'm doing something super interesting or I want to experiment with something. I have a little bit more time. So for me, it's never been about having true balance of 8 hours of work and 8 hours of home and 8 hours of sleep. It's more about how do you create the right harmony for yourself. It's very individualistic when I look at the concept of work-life balance, and individuals have to figure out what works best for them. And it will change as well throughout your career. I had moments where I was really pushing to grow. And in those moments, I was working a lot more hours, but I was having a lot of satisfaction from that. So it's all about finding what works well for you and figuring out what you need as an individual. Do you need more time at work because you feel really excited, really energized about what's happening? Do you need more time at home to spend time with your family, to go and do other things to recharge? So those are decisions that you have to make yourself. And really, it's a lot about learning who you are and what works best for you. But what's worked for me is to think of it more open-ended and to know that every day might be a little bit different. There's a lot of variation in what's happening, and to be accepting of that and take the time I need for myself when I need it and push at work when I really want to push because something exciting is happening.
Yeah, thank you, Bruno. Bringing that extra perspective, because we sometimes looking at other professions from outside and we feel they are having a more relaxed life. But thank you for bringing that with your personal connections, that other professions are also, there are struggles, there are challenges on their own domains. And then the next important thing you shared is you have that work-life harmony instead of balance, and then what excites you most, and then you focus on that more so that your life feels exciting regardless of what domain you are in. Thanks for bringing those up. Really appreciate all those ideas. And I want to ask you, now you have moved from individual contributor to a people's leader, manager. When did you realize you want to move to leadership in your career?
It was very early for me. I would say I was about 2.5 years into the industry in my first job, and I just felt this gravitation towards eventually becoming a manager. And it was something that I had been talking to my current manager at that time about, because the organization that I was in, there were a lot of leaders that had been leaders for a very long time. So there were people who had been already in the industry, in the company and within my org for 15 to 20 years, and they'd been leaders for a long time. So one of the things that the org was looking for is, how do we build and grow the next generation of leaders that are going to develop this team and develop this product? So those were questions that were coming up at that time. When I had conversations with my manager, we talked about my interests, where I felt I was more energized at work, what were some of the things that were interesting for me. And my manager actually helped me go through a lot of mentorship, where I was the mentor for other people. So I worked a lot with summer interns. I worked across other organizations as a mentor to more early career folks. So I did a lot of this mentorship with people. And through that, I got a piece of what it's like to be a manager, because the growing people aspect exists in mentorship. So I was exposed to that. There's a lot of other things that you don't get exposed to until you're actually a leader, you're actually a manager, people are reporting to you. But that experience for me of having my manager support me, give me those different experiences, and for me to actually really enjoy it is what led to me wanting to pursue a leadership position and getting into management and becoming a manager versus an IC. And throughout my career since then, I always felt like I connected a lot with people. And over time throughout my career, I noticed that the product started to matter a little bit less to me. Still interesting to solve the technical problems, build the products, help the customers. But the people side of things, I took a bigger interest in. I was interested in how do you grow people? How do you handle challenges that people have? In some cases, it's challenges that people are having outside of work that they need help with, on how to focus at work, how to do the right things at work. In other cases, it's people looking for more opportunities. People might be really hungry for growth, right? So there's a lot of different people with different styles, and I found that super interesting. And just my interest in interpersonal relationships, in the psychology of people, is also what ended up drawing me towards management and me wanting to pursue that career of becoming a manager someday.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Lot of insights there, Bruno. So one thing I noted is that you found significant interest in making a bigger impact in your team, or mentoring other interns in early career engineers. So that is something that that really resonates with me. When I started my YouTube channel, I also felt like there is a significant gap for the early engineers to learn, to decide on what to learn, what skills to gather, how to communicate with your manager. So that is something I'm also trying to fix or narrow down in my content. So you really explained how mentorship can add value to early career engineers, and I want to highlight here, when I was I got to know Bruno honestly through a mastermind that I'm part of called the Personal Leadership Academy, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity, having the opportunity to connect with Bruno. And he was mentoring me for a couple of months when I was in the rock bottom in my financial situation. And one thing I noted in Bruno was that you were able to come down to my level and mentor me, because one thing we see in coaches is that mentee is somewhere here and mentor is somewhere here, and there is a gap between their understanding, and sometimes when applying whatever the advice the mentor gives, there is mismatch, and that sometimes doesn't resonate well with the mentee. But one thing I noted with you, not for me, but when you were mentoring everyone else in those calls, you were able to get down to their level, and not significant deviation from what you taught them, but slight deviations from what they are already doing. So how important it is as a mentor to go to that level and coach other mentees in their level, getting into their shoes. How do you think about it?
It's super important because when you want information to resonate with someone, they have to understand it. And I think a lot of people, for all the audience members, if you've ever been in a room where you're listening to somebody talk and the content doesn't make any sense to you because it's too advanced, that can happen a lot with mentoring or with coaching, where you are in a room with a mentor or coach and they're talking to you and they're saying words to you, but you can't understand or relate to what they're speaking. And that doesn't lead to a very good relationship that you build with that person. And it doesn't help you to grow as well, because you're not understanding what they're trying to get across. What are the points they're trying to get across? And this is where, whenever I'm working with people, let's say a summer intern or like a brand new hire who just joined the industry, I really need to go back to those times in my head of my experiences that I went through, really thinking about where they're coming from. And obviously things are changing every year. The quality of interns I see every year is continuing to grow and increase. But I still go back to a lot of some of the basics that I experienced, which is when I came as an intern, I didn't know anything. I had no information. And so there was a part of me that felt like, okay, I don't really know my place here in this team, in this organization. And there were moments of me feeling like a little bit like I didn't belong, or just a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, should I be here? I don't know if I should be here, right? And when I go back and I think about those times when I work with these people, with these interns or new hires, I try and create an environment that's very welcoming because I know that they have those experiences too, where they're just not sure about their capabilities and how well they can do. And they might talk to other people and see how capable other people are. And I had that same experience too. So I go back to what I went through in my career and also what I experienced just by talking to other people as they grew in their careers. And I really want to bring things down to their level because it helps them to relate more to me, helps me build a better relationship with that person. And when I'm explaining information to them, I want to explain it in a way that makes them understand and that resonates for them. That's the most important thing, is like it has to make sense to the person. And if I can have it if I can have it be more meaningful than just the words I'm saying, then that will help the message stick better and help them to grow and develop. So I do see it being super important for coaches and mentors to understand where the mentee is and to meet them where they're at. And it's because it's not about having this power trip of like, oh, I'm the coach or I'm the mentee and like I have all the power because I have all the experience. Like that's not what it's about. It's really focused on the growth of the other person. Like the mentee or the coachee is there because they're wanting to learn, they're wanting to advance, they're wanting to grow. And so coming in with that mindset as the coach or the mentor is what enables me to be effective. And when I've worked with other coaches and mentors in my life, that's what has helped me the most as well, is when they can relate to where I'm at and they can pull me up, but in a way that I understand.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Bruno, because sometimes we have that experience. Yeah, we were there as junior engineers, but sometimes we don't get that mindset again, how we felt, how scared we were, how uncertain we were about the future. But you going into that mindset again really helps you to mentor them in the best way possible. Thank you for bringing that up. And I invite all our audience to connect with Bruno if you are looking for any career advice, career opportunities on accelerating your career in tech. I highly recommend you reaching out to him and get guidance on that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bruno. And the next thing I want to ask you is when you moved from individual engineer to leadership, what was something significant mind shift change or something that really surprised you?
Yeah, there's so much that changed and so much that I had to change about my mindset. The immediate thing that I remember, I became a manager quite a long time ago at this point. It was February or March 2020. So it was right before COVID started actually. And it was a difficult time because we went from working in person 5 days a week to working remote 5 days a week. So there was a lot of challenge with that. But I would say the biggest change that I experienced from going from IC to manager was letting go of control. Because as an IC, when you build software and you build systems and you're working on solving those technical problems, you have the control on how to solve those problems. Or at least like if you're the driver of the work, you're the one bringing the proposals, coming up with the ideas, getting the approvals, and then eventually executing on that work and getting the work done. As a manager, what I realized in my first 12 months was that I no longer had all of the control. I could influence work to happen certain ways. I could influence certain decisions that were happening, but I wasn't necessarily the technical driver of that work. And if I took on the technical work, then I was taking opportunity away from the people on my team. So then my team didn't have a good path to growth for those individuals that were reporting to me. So that relinquish of control on the technical side was a really key learning for me. It took quite a long time for me to really internalize and make that shift because I had only known how to go and build software at that point. I hadn't actually been a manager formally for an extended period of time at that point. So that idea of letting go of control and really focusing on how do I help my team grow and develop and these individual people grow and develop, that was the shift in focus that I needed to make. And once I did that, then I started seeing more progress as I worked with the people that were reporting to me at that time.
Thank you, Bruno. So that is a very important thing of drawing the circles, boundaries in your work as a manager, because if you go too much into technical details, sometimes you may be sabotaging the career of a tech lead or architect in your team who wants to grow in that area. So that's a great insight. Thank you for bringing that up. And now I want to shift gears and ask something that our audience would be really like to hear from you. So you engage in hiring in your day-to-day work for the most of the time as a principal software engineering manager. So from your career, and I recently saw that in one of your recent podcasts that you highlighted, even though we are in the AI era, still the skills that you are looking for are the same, like the critical thinking, how you evaluate the output from AI generated code, how you evaluate that. So all those basic skills are still there. So with all of these things happening in the AI world, what are the three common mistakes that you still see in your interview candidates for engineering roles?
It's a great question. The common mistakes that I see, the number one is communication, is candidates oftentimes with technical questions, they might be able to solve technical questions, but if they can't explain their thought process, they can't explain why the solution works, they have a difficult time walking through test cases, then that communication breaks down. That communication is so important in the corporate world because you will talk with stakeholders, you will give status updates, you will explain things to junior people, you'll explain things to senior people. And so that the ability to communicate your thoughts and ideas is super critical. And even though AI is making execution more simplified, the ability to communicate what's happening and explain things to other people is still a very important skill that people need to have. So for me, number one is communication, where people don't focus enough on developing their communication, especially on the technical questions for the interviews. So that's the first one. The second one is I've seen a lot of people who, and this is a little bit difficult, but I see a lot of people get very stressed during interviews. I know it's a very stressful process. It's a very challenging process. One thing I recommend for people is to just take some moments as you get into the interview, chat a little bit with the interviewer, take some deep breaths, calm yourself down. And really, the more preparation you do, and the more you simulate that real world environment of doing an interview where you're actually speaking out loud and you're solving the problem and you're explaining your thoughts, the easier it will feel when you get into the actual interview. So what the stress causes during the interview process is I see a lot of people who are rushing or they make mistakes that I feel they would not normally make because they're thinking too fast or they're trying to get through the problem. And I just encourage people to slow down and take your time, talk with the interviewer, ask for help when you need help, and think of it more as a collaborative environment. Yes, it is the other person who is evaluating you as the candidate, but they also need to look at, do I want to collaborate with this person every day? Are they going to be a great team member on my team if they join, right? So you want to create that environment and create that collaboration during the interview process itself. So that's the second one, I would say. The third one is just not preparing for behavioral questions. The behavioral questions will come because people want to know how you handle different experiences and challenges. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is that you actually you work on behavioral questions on your own and you build what I call a story bank. You'll have stories about times in your career, times in your life that apply to different situations. For example, you might have a story about a problem that you had to solve with stakeholders, and it might have a leadership component, it might have a problem-solving component, it might have a resolving conflict component, And if you have that story and you get asked a question that is aligned with one of those areas, then you can use that story when you actually go into the interview. If you don't know that you have that story, then it's very hard for you to just pull it out of your head out of nowhere and be able to explain that. So, really practicing on the behavioral interview questions, build your story bank, and actually write down, like, here's the story, here's what it relates to, here's the questions it applies to, and that'll make it easier for you to draw on those experiences when you're in the actual interview. So those are the three areas I would say: communication, dealing with the stress, calming yourself down, making sure that you're taking your time, and really preparing for those behavioral questions, because those are going to keep coming.
Yeah, thank you, Bruno. So, thank you for bringing that up. Important aspect, because sometimes we focus too much on the technical problems, but behavioral questions are also really important in the sense here, because that's a significant part of the interview process. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And I want to ask this question as well from you. If there is someone who wants to become an engineering manager in the next 1 to 2 years, what advice would you give him that you would have known at the start of your career?
That's a great question. Yeah, to become an engineering manager, what I ended up doing is I sought out opportunities to have experiences that would give me some of the experience of being a manager in some capacity. And so one of the things I did is I actually managed summer interns for 2 or 3 summers where they were directly reporting to me. I would do the performance evaluations. I would be the one who was in charge of figuring out the projects and working with other stakeholders and other people on the structure of the project, and then working directly with the intern on that. And I had a separate mentor as well who was also working with them. That's a great way to get some experience because you get hands-on and it's a temporary amount of time. For us, it's 3 months in the summer. So it's not like it's something that takes an entire year, but that gives you some real world experience of what it's like to handle more of the day to day of being a manager. So if you have the opportunity to do something like that, then I definitely recommend doing that. Getting more experience mentoring other people and helping them grow and develop. That's another great way for people to gain some of that experience. I'd say talking to your manager about the fact that you want to grow into a leadership role is also very important. If people don't know, then they can't do anything to help you. And I was very vocal about it. Because I was vocal about it, because my manager was also supportive, we were able to work together and I got more opportunities as a result. So that's something else that can happen is when you have a supportive manager and management chain, and you make that known that you want to grow it into a leadership role and you want to become a manager someday, then they'll look for opportunities for you if they want to see that growth and development for yourself. So looking for those opportunities and making sure that people who are above you understand that you do want to grow to that role. Those I would say are the key areas of what I would focus on and what I would have liked to know earlier in my career. But I came to know pretty quick because I wanted to become a manager pretty early. So, but yeah, that's the advice I would give to people who are looking to get into that role. And yeah, go and do those things and see how they turn out.
Thank you, Bruno. Yeah, that is, I cannot emphasize enough. I cannot emphasize enough on the importance of communicating those goals to your manager early in your career, because he doesn't know without you communicating him whether you want to be a people's leader or a technical leader. They are two different parts, and it's really important that you communicate and get those things. So whenever there are opportunities coming up in your organization, your manager knows this is the right fit for you. Thank you for bringing that up, Bruno. And to conclude, I want to ask, because I know you are already sharing a lot of content on leadership and engineering in LinkedIn. So I invite our audience to follow you and get to know, because I find a lot of knowledge, interest in the contents you share every week. That's really great through the video content on LinkedIn. So I highly recommend everyone to follow you. And I want to know some books that you recommend reading to our audience on engineering or on the life that you would recommend reading, and some people that you follow on LinkedIn that can add value to our audience.
Yeah, that's great. I have a lot of book recommendations. I would say from a life standpoint, I would start with The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I love that book. I think it's great. It's a fable, and it's really about personal development and growth. And the story is it's very easy to consume, which is great because I know a lot of books in that space can sometimes feel a little bit challenging. But I think it's a great introduction to just in general personal development and introspection, self-awareness. So definitely recommend that. For people who want to become managers, I would go read the book First Break All the Rules. It's a great book, and it has a lot of learnings about being a leader. There's a lot of content about what makes good culture, what makes a good working environment, and just a lot of really good advice on being a great manager and being a great leader. And there's a lot of information from a company called Gallup. They do a lot of studies on organizations and companies and what makes great culture. So definitely recommend that as a starting point if you want to get into management. And I would say, let me think about what other books I would recommend. Definitely those couple. In general, I really love the book Hidden Potential. It's an Adam Grant book. And the reason I love it so much is because he tells a lot of stories about how people found their potential to do great things in their life, whether it's a team of people, it's a school of people, it's a entire culture. And it's just really interesting to hear the different stories of how these different groups and different people found their way to eventually become very, very successful in what they were doing, even though a lot of those people and groups were under a lot of challenges. So I would definitely go and read Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. It's another great one that I love. I would say those are the kind of core ones I would start with that would be great book recommendations. And then I have a lot of books behind me that I could recommend as well that would also be great for people. But those are, I think, a good starting point for folks to read.
And any people that you follow, you recommend following?
Yeah,
Leaders?
people I follow on LinkedIn. Scott Hanselman's great.
Mm-hmm.
He's a VP at Microsoft. He puts out a lot of great content. He's super genuine, has a lot of great ideas, and I love especially what he's been talking a few months ago about just like the talent pipeline in tech in the era of AI. So he has a lot of great thoughts around like the usage of AI and how we should do it, and he focuses also a lot on the junior developer and how do we bring junior developers into this world, help them to grow and develop. So definitely I would check him out. I would say he's kind of like my number one in terms of content to check out on LinkedIn. I'll shout out Brendan as well, Brendan Kumarasamy, who's my communication coach. He also puts out a lot of great content. If you want to learn how to be a better communicator, definitely check out his stuff. Those are the two people I would say right now that I'm really following closely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bruno. And I have read Robin Sharma's this book, The Leader Who Had No Title. I think that Monk Who Sold Ferrari. I think that's also going to be super interesting because I really loved reading this one. So I'm definitely going to read that book that you recommended. And with that, I think we are at the end of our episode. And I want to thank Bruno for his time, for his knowledge shared with us. And I think our audience got so much value out of this. And hoping to connect with you in another interesting episode of Elevate Podcast. And thank you very much, Bruno, for your time and your knowledge.
Thanks so much, Harsha, for having me on the show.
Thank you.